Okay, so the battery's charged up overnight. It's not full, it was reading about 90% when I turned it on, so we're just going to give it a quick turn on again to see if we can boost it up a little bit more. One test I'm going to do with this smart ring battery tester and charger is on the original battery here. The crank amp CCA is 680, so I'm just going to do a test set just to give this. Last time I did it, when I finished charging this morning, 77%, which wasn't bad really, considering it was down at maybe 4 to 6 volts on the car when I first took it out. So we get that flashing across there, set, cycle round to the crank amps, this one here at the bottom. Okay, set, that's getting ready, that's flashing here now, so set that, and then we change this to 680 here. Okay, 680, and then off we go, set. Let's see what it says. Let's give it a little test now. And there you go, it's saying the battery is 79%, thumbs up, so we've got plenty of juice there to turn the car over, and then hopefully the car will then just top up the rest of it itself. Okay, off we go. Okay, so the time has come to put the new battery in. Well, the old battery I've charged up. A bit frosty this morning. Let's go and air the boot. Now this is a little tip. See how I've left that slightly open? Of course, if that closes, you won't be able to open it up to fit the battery because there's no key slot that I can see. So what I did was just tape this battery strap here just to stop the boot from closing. Okay, so take out the centre bit here and off we go. So this is the boot battery compartment exposed now. That's what we did yesterday, just to protect the ends, the positive and negative. Get our kit ready. So we need a 10mm and a 13mm socket, long reach socket probably for the 10mm. Get your keys ready in case the alarm goes off when you plug everything back in. You've got the bolt there for the battery strap, there to put the unit back in later, or the pad, and then a flat bladed screwdriver in case you need to just adjust the plastic top here when you're getting it back on. So just before I start refitting the battery, just going to vacuum the dust out from the bottom using my trusty Dyson, just to clean it up. There's a good chance to do it at the moment when everything's exposed. Okay, we've given the base nice vacuum out, making sure we didn't damage any components or suck up any knobs along the way. We've got this prepared out the way here. This is the positive terminal section. We've got the vent tube here that goes back onto the battery later, and then we've got the negative terminal here, which I'm just keeping out the way. That's the last thing to go on at the end. And then all our tools here ready to go. So basically that's it. Battery's ready to go in. Okay, so that's the original battery back in place. You can see down there what I was talking about with the lugs. This bit here, this piece here has to clip over, so that's quite important not to lose that. That's where the strap goes onto. So you haven't got a lot of room. You've got a little bit of room this side, but nothing forward and backwards. That's where it clips down there. Now this goes back on like this, and then the negative terminal comes over. We just make sure that the negative terminal's covered back over, and put some gloves on and goggles for safety. Okay, so that's the positive terminal just back in place. I'm just going to push that down here. Everything should go back into place here. Okay, I've given it a push down here, and I'll tighten that up in a minute. Just make sure these plastic lugs are tight. So everything went on really nicely. And what we didn't do was disconnected all these. There's no need to. It all pulls out really easily. So the only one you want to disconnect is that. Remember, we opened this up a little bit with a screwdriver just to get it off initially. That'll tighten back up. See, it's quite loose. And now it's reasonably solid again. Just before we forget, let's put this back in, because that'll get left off if we're not careful. There's the vent. There's the gas vent there. So we'll get this tightened up, then we'll get the strap on, back on, and then we'll get the negative terminal in, and then test it. Okay. Okay, we're just going to tighten the battery positive terminal up with a 10mm socket. Nip that back up. There we go. Right, we're going to refit the battery strap back on now. It fell off actually, so just be careful, because that's the clip there, and that goes into this little slot here in the back. Okay. Okay, so it's secured there, down to here. Put the bolt in, 13mm. That's the strap back in place. So we're going to tighten that down. That'll secure the battery. And just at this point, just make sure that the negative terminal is covered over. We don't want that touching anything at the moment. And at this point, I'm going to put my gloves on. Right, so that's me put my gloves on, just so I don't short out anything with my watch or my ring. And we'll nip up the strap. 13mm, as I mentioned. So here, that secures the battery. There we go. That's good. Right, so we're ready just to tighten the strap up. Just before we do that, we might as well just close up this lid here for the positive. Hear that click there, the positive side, making sure nothing gets shorted out, nothing gets trapped, no cables trapped here. That's nice and solid. So we just do the final tighten on the strap here, and that's the battery done. Okay, that's nice and solid there. Now for the big test, putting the negative terminal back on. We've got a 10mm socket ready. We'll take it out the protection. We've got our key fob ready just in case the alarm goes off, and let's see how we go. This is the negative terminal back into place. So we've got a light on. Things are looking good. Let's tighten this up. Right, so I've just repositioned the negative terminal, just pushed it around so it's all lined up nicely. Very, very carefully tighten this up. and that's quite tight now. Not over tightened, but tight. And then just give it a quick wriggle, make sure it's tight on this stud, the battery. So that's good, we're all ready to go. Before we put the boot back in, we'll might as well run the car up, see what happens. Right, so this is a big test. Battery's in. Let's give it a go. Foot on the brake and press. Car starts. Showing I've got 31 miles, which is fully charged. We'll leave the engine running for a bit now. It's getting a few warnings up here. Ice possible, drive with care, because it is icy. I think what I might do at this point is I'll just switch it to drive mode, hold, so that it runs on the engine. That way the engine keeps running all the time. There. And then that'll continue to charge up the battery a little bit more. Makes me feel good now. Everything looks good. One thing I'm going to do just while the engine's running and charging the battery up here, I'm just going to check the voltage at the terminals here on the battery just before we finish. Okay. Okay, so 13.1 volts. When it's charged up fully, it'll be up to maybe 14.5. So that's looking good. Oh, that's the engine just cut off now. Right, see what happens now. I'll restart it. Right, just to let you know, I've come in just to restart the car. So first of all, I've just taken off the heat seater for a minute. I've put it into drive, kept it in hold mode, and so just to rock the car back and forward. So we've got movement on the car, but the engine won't start initially. Don't know why, really. I thought the engine would just keep running because we're on hold. But this is a little bit like when you're at traffic lights and it cuts off and you're waiting. So I guess once we get going, it will. Alright. So one final check now. I've just put the handbrake back on and put it back into park. I'm just going to open the bonnet and just check the battery voltage at the terminals at the front, just to show you where they are. Interestingly enough, there I just popped the bonnet just to check that, and the engine kicked back in, so that's good. So I can get a good reading on the battery there at the bonnet. So we've popped the bonnet now, and we're just going to open up the positive side of the terminal here, that stud there. The negative here is this one. We'll put the meter across and see what we're reading. Should be 13 volts still. A couple of things just to remind yourself of. When the control battery is flat, the charging door won't open. So there's one thing to remember. And also, when the control battery is flat and you're trying to access the battery in the back, you can't open this either when it's locked very easily. I think there's a mechanism inside that you can open up, but it's all against you. The other thing to remember as well is once you've jump started the car and you put the lid down, the bonnet down, it cuts off. There must be a little micro switch somewhere. There you go. Bonnet down, engine goes off. As suspected. So now the final thing to do, I've powered down the car and we'll put the matting back in and the protection. What I've done now is just detach the plastic shroud from the matting, fix it back in place, give it a quick vacuum. We'll clip these back on in place as protection. Okay, and then we need to line up the holes before we screw that back down. Plastic shroud is back in place. There's a little clip here, and then make sure the studs are all poking through. Each 4 studs here, and we'll screw them back on with the nuts. Everything's nice and solid. Right, so 10mm socket, probably a long reach, but mine's a short reach, but it still does it. And tighten it up. Okay, we're ready to put the matting back in. Just be aware that these lugs here and here go into these slots here and there, and then the flaps get tucked in down the back of the seats. Here we go. Right, we're just getting this mat back in. It's a bit fiddly. They're on Velcro. You've got to kind of push them right down, push them down, and then they seat onto the back of the seat. And then this whole mat mechanism moves forwards, making sure these go into the slots here, and then you close. Voila!